Hi everyone, my name's Brian. Thanks for checking out my video, Introduction to OneNote for Genealogists. This video came as a result of my decision to go paperless in my genealogy a little while ago. I just took a look around one day and looked at the mess in my office and bookshelves and all of these binders and just loose pieces of paper everywhere, folders, and I thought, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? Why do I have so much paper when all of this stuff could easily be done digitally? So I started a blog at paperlessgenealogy.blogspot.com, and I'm starting to slowly take my genealogy paperless. And so one of the tools that I'm using um, to do that, and what I'm trying to chronicle here, is Microsoft Office OneNote. And the version that I'm using is 2007, but it's pretty similar to other versions that are out there. So, um, you know, everything that I'm showing you here should be similar to any version of OneNote that you have. So OneNote comes with Microsoft Office, different versions of it, and or I think you can purchase it on your own without getting the whole Office suite if you're interested in doing some more with it. So at a really high level, OneNote is what I like to call virtual backpack or virtual book bag. You can have any number of notebooks that are shown here on the left. Right now I have one notebook called OneNote 2007 Guide. Each notebook has sections or tabs that are very similar to a subject. If you were going to get this, would be essentially a two-subject notebook, and each section has pages that you can see over here on the right. So it's a really good tool for taking notes, and it's a good tool for organizing things because it's very flexible in how it's used, and you're not limited to starting to type at the top of the page and then hit enter, you go down to the next line, hit enter, you go down to the next line. It's very fluid, and it's um, easy to change once you get started. So let's talk about how this works for genealogy. A lot of how-to articles online. There are a lot of videos how to organize your genealogy. I'm going to show you what I do, but I'm not suggesting that this is the right way to do it. I'm just suggesting that if you currently have your files and your research in binders and they're sitting on bookshelves, it's very easy to translate what that would look like into OneNote. Your notebook here would be essentially a binder, and then your tabs would be the same as tabs, and you can have pages here the same way. The benefits here are, as I said, it's very flexible in OneNote. It's very um, easy to change if you have certain notes on one page and you want to move them to another page. It's easy to do. You're not limited to 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper to fit into a binder, and it's super compact. I can have all of my binders on a little flash drive and have that with me every time I go somewhere. So I'm not getting ready for a research trip and trying to figure out which binders do I have to have with me, or which pages from each binder, or any of that stuff. I just grab my flash drive and go with my laptop. So to create a new notebook, you can do it a number of ways, but for now we'll go to File, New, Notebook. I organize my notebooks by surname that I'm researching. So I have a list of names in the Higgins line, so I'm going to create a new notebook here called Higgins. You can go ahead and change colors if you want, and you can pick different templates. I always pick the blank template because it's the most flexible, and I'm always moving things around, and it just that's what works for me. So I'm going to hit next. I'm going to say I will use it on this computer, even though I'm actually going to save my notebook to a flash drive so that I can bring it with me and use it with my laptop or my desktop. But that that's probably the option that's going to work for most people, particularly for genealogists. So I'll hit next here, and then I'd have to pick where I want to save this. So I'm going to pick my K drive, which is my USB drive, and hit select. And so now you can see that there's going to be a notebook here called K:(Higgins). So I'll hit create, and I immediately have my new notebook. It's got one section and one untitled page. Now, an interesting thing to note here is that if you go to File, with most programs, you typically see a save option, and you don't see that here. There is a save as, so you can save as a different format, but there is no save, and that's because OneNote is constantly saving in the background for you. So there's no danger here of doing a bunch of work and having a power outage and losing all that work that you did. Every few seconds or so, OneNote is saving the changes that you've made. So that's a really handy feature. All right, so now I have my Higgins notebook. I I have in my files a section of the notebook for each individual that I'm researching. So if I right click on the tab, I can say rename, and I can put in the first name that I'm researching. And when I label these, I always like to put the year of birth, year of death, so that as I add more sections, I may come across another Edwin Higgins. This will be easily distinguishable from the first Edwin, or from the next Edwin. So now I have my tab. So this section is going to be for Edwin Higgins, 1841 to 1922. And I don't like the fact that this page is called Untitled. So you would think that I would right click here and I would use the rename feature the same way that I did with the section, but you'll note that there is actually no rename here. So how do you change the name of a page? Well, you type in this little dotted box thing. So my first page, I always put general. I always call it general information, and this is sort of where I go for some really high level information. Now, wherever I type in this is where my notes are going to be. So if I wanted to put, name Edwin Higgins, and over here I could say birth is 31st of May, 1841, and the death is the 5th of November, 1922. I can do that now. That might make sense to me today, but I'm going to look at this in a couple days and think, what the heck was I doing? So you can see as I hover over this text, there's a little box that forms around it with a light blue bar across the top. And I can then drag these notes however I want to. So, a week from now, maybe I set it up this way, so that makes a little more sense. Well, in a few weeks, maybe I learn that there's actually a marriage involved here, and that happened on the 18th of December, 1864. And so, then I can pull this down and move this over, and I can, if I want to, have my notes organized that way. This is kind of ugly. I don't really like this. So I'm going to, if I click up here and I drag a box around these, it'll highlight all of them, and I can hit delete and clean them up. What I really want to do is set that up in a table. So I'm going to click back up here, and I can go up here and say insert table and do, what people are familiar with. Figure out, okay, I'm going to have name, birth, marriage, death, and then there's one row after that that has the stats. I can do that, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to use the functionality of OneNote to build that table for me. So how I do that is I start with the first column heading, which is going to be name, and then I hit tab, and I automatically get a 2-column table. So after name is birth, and then I hit tab again, and there's my next column, and and then marriage, and then death. Now if I want a second line, if I'm at the end of a row and I want a second line in the same cell, I can't just hit enter. If I hit enter here, I'm going to get the next row in the table. To do a second line in the last cell, you hold the shift down and then hit enter, and you can get another line that way. So I don't need another line here, so I'm just going to hit enter. I'll get my next row, and then I can do my high level information. So birth, I said, was the 31st of May, 1841. Marriage was the 18th of December, 1864. And death is the 5th of November, 1922. So at a real high level, I have sort of a brief look at who this person was when he was born, married, died. I can add on to this as much information as I want. So I can go here and say he was born in Eden, which is in Hancock County, Maine. And he was married in West Eden, which is also in Hancock County, Maine. Oops, there I go. I need to hit shift and enter. And he died in Somes Sound, which is also in Hancock County, Maine. And you can see how the table sort of redraws itself to fit as best it can. Now, same rules apply here. I can move this around. You know, everything that's within this box can be moved around however I want. So I can move it down here if I want. I can highlight this row just like in any other program or word processing program, and I can say bold, and I can make this 14-point font and sort of make it kind of a realistic table here. Now, one of the things that I like to do is this is my high level general information. Now I can go through and highlight this column heading. I can right click on it and say create linked page. And so what that does is it creates a hyperlink on that heading that goes to a new page that it created named after whatever I had highlighted here. And I can do the same thing for marriage and the same thing for birth. And so now I instantly have 3 new pages set up for more specific information. I like to, you know, for death, I put death certificates or obituaries. You know, for marriage, I might have a marriage announcement or a marriage license or, you know, birth certificate. So now I have links to those pages. So if I go to my death page for Edwin, over here I have Edwin Higgins death certificate, and I can drag that and drop it right into OneNote, and it automatically sticks it in there for me so I can see it. Now I'm going to resize it a little bit just so it's kind of easier to work with, and then bring it back up to the top of my page. And here we go. So, you know, I mean, this is all kind of preference on how you set these up, but the idea is the same, that anywhere in your binders where you might have stuck your death certificate, if you have a scanned copy of that or, you know, an image of that death certificate, you can easily import it into your OneNote notebook just by dragging and dropping it onto a page. So one thing that's kind of funny here is that my pages seem out of order from how I might normally keep them together. I want my birth page to come up here, so I can drag it right up here, and I can take death and drag it down under marriage, and now all my pages are in sync. So that's a real high level on how you can use OneNote to get started organizing your genealogy. There's a lot of cool features of OneNote that I hope to explain in a little bit more detail in other videos, but in the interest of time, this is going to be the end of this video. So I hope that that's been a good introduction for you and gives you some thought about how easy it would be to take what you have in binders now and translate that into OneNote. And hopefully, you see some of the benefit of doing that as well. If you have any questions or comments, you can always visit my blog at paperlessgenealogy.blogspot.com, where I hope to have this and more videos like it in the future. Thanks a lot.